Hey everyone, it's Chris here. I want to take 20 minutes out of your time and have a full tutorial on how this multi-step Webflow form works. So first things first, I'm going to show you a quick demo. It's just a basic Webflow form with multi-step functionality. It does come up with multiple steps. And of course, this custom code works with native Webflow form element. So just the basic stuff right here with a couple of steps. If I click next question, it won't allow me to move to the next step. If I do have required fields I need to complete within the active step. So as soon as I type my name, let's say Chris, and let's put my last name here and hit next question, it goes to the next step. And as you can see, the form also comes with customization. So you can take any value from any field and pass it to a span element, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And of course, the form is also built with additional validators. So for example, if I would hit next for this text area field, it won't allow me to move to the next slide because I need to add at least 50 words. So frankly, I do have a magic tool called dummy text generator. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass 51 words really quickly, paste it here and hit next so you can see that it's fully working. Of course, it does work with radio buttons or checkboxes. I'm going to show you in a second what the setup must be. And the very last question that we have right here does have the submit button. And in order to submit this form, guess what? I have to complete this field too. Now, if I would complete this field, so let's say I'm going to add right here a quick test email and hit submit. You're going to see that it will return back the default success message from the Webflow. Now you can do any kind of message right here. Again, it's a Webflow native form element. You can also do a redirect in case you want to track successful form submissions. So let me reload this page and let's go back to the Notion and kind of talk how the setup must be. So being said, it's up to you. You have two ways. First way is to clone this clonable and apply the changes, or you can just start from scratch. So in that case, if you want to start from scratch, it's important to understand what actually makes the form work. So the entire multi-step functionality has been done using Parsley.js. Parsley.js is an open source form validator. If you want to learn more, just click on this toggle right here in the About section, and then you're going to see a link to the Parsley library. So if you open this up, you have the full documentation. Now, this form comes with the minimum attributes for the Parsley to work, but you can open up the official documentation, click on the documentation in the navigation, and just look for all of the available custom attributes that Parsley come with. The reason we've been choosing Parsley is because it's relying on custom attributes instead of classes or IDs, which means that it's a lot easier for someone that it's not that tech savvy. So with this being said, the step number one is to add the core libraries in your before body closing tag. And we have two libraries. The very first one is the Parsley official library. And the second one is the custom minimum words feature, which you saw in the text area when I basically had to put 51 words in order to move forward. So that is the very first step. So let's go to the Webflow. Let me show you exactly where you add this. So inside the Webflow Designer, you open up the page settings. And then at the very bottom of your page settings, you're going to see before body tag. You can see that this clonable already has the Parsley and the minimum word core libraries already added. So step one, it's done here. Now for the second step, we have to add the main code. And this is where you'll obviously need to know how JavaScript works a little bit, right? And all you have to do is just copy this entire code from here. Yeah, and you'll have to paste it below the core library. So if I open up this clonable one more time, you can see that this main code is added below the core libraries. Yeah, and we do this because, well, the core libraries needs to load first, and then the core libraries will then listen to the main code that we have right here. So the main code, it's not minified, i.e. it's not in one single line of code. The main reason being is we wanted you to have the main code in case you want to apply some changes. But keep in mind that if you publish this live, you definitely want this code to be minified. And the best way to minify this code is to basically use a really great tool from toptile.com, which you can find right here in this Notion callout block. It says, don't forget to minify the code using this tool. And if you click right here, you're going to see this Toptile tool. And all you have to do is just copy this code from here. You go back to this tool, you paste this in, and you click on minify. And then it will just basically gives you the minified version. It might give you an error just like you saw on my screen. All you have to do is just remove the script tag. So we have a script tag at the top and then another one at the bottom. So we are removing these, and if we click minify, yeah, we also need to remove these. Any kind of comments that we made, hit minify, and then you're going to see the minified version. You click copy to clipboard, and you just basically replace this long code right here, or you just paste it from scratch. So I hope this does make sense. Now, the final step, which is like step 3 right here, is to enable the minimum words feature. And again, this is up to you. Just to show you how this minimum words feature works, if I'm going to go back to this demo, hit my name right here, my last name, and hit next question, you're going to see that it does not allow me to move next because, well, this text area input needs at least 50 words. So this is basically what makes this feature to work. The step number 3, which you're going to find on this Notion page. And again, it's really up to you if you want to enable this feature. Now, the most important part of this tutorial, of course, is to talk about the custom attributes that this multi-step form relies on. So the very first attribute is the multi-step attribute. You don't have to add any value. You just need to add the name of the custom attribute. And what it does is it tells Parsley, hey, this Webflow form, I wanted to turn it into like a multi-step. And if we go back to this clonable, let me click on close and show you exactly where you would add this. So if we open up the navigator, yeah, and we click on this multi-step block, you can see telling by the icon, this is a Webflow form. And if you open up this Webflow form element, you're going to see the very first element, which is form, right? And if you select this form right here, and then we go to the settings on the right side, you're going to see that under the custom attributes, it does have the multi-step. So again, you can use this layout and clonable we have provided, or you can just start from scratch and add the script plus all the custom attributes that the script needs. So being said, the very first one is the multi-step, and you will have to apply this attribute to the form element just below the main form block inside of Webflow. So that is the very first attribute. If we move forward, we have the form step. And now you would add the form step attribute to every single step. This can be a section, this can be a div block, it can be any tag you want. By adding this attribute, you will tell Parsley that this is a step of my multi-step form. And if we go back to the Webflow and we open up this form element, you can see that we have right here multiple steps, right? We have 4 steps, and every single div block of this form step, if we're looking over the settings and custom attributes, it does have the form step. And just like with the multi-step attribute that we talked in the beginning, this one, form step, doesn't need any value, just need the name, right? All right, so let's see what is the very next one. The very next one, it's form button, and this attribute defines all of the form navigation. It defines the next button, it defines the back button, as well as the form submit button. So basically all you have to do is within your form steps, just add what is the next, what is the back button, and what is the submit. And these are basically the values of the form button. So let me show you exactly how this works. If we go back to the Webflow, what we can do right here is we can select these 3 steps that they're hidden. And I'm going to explain in a moment why they're hidden, but we can select one of them. We can go to the style and we can click under the display. We can click on display flags. And now we can see all of the fields that are not active or they're just simply hidden. Now, the reason why I enabled this is because I want to show you how this form button attribute works. So what you're going to notice is within every single form step box, we have quite a simple structure. So we have a box at the very top, which basically holds all of the inputs and headlines and description. And then we have the form nav, which holds all of the buttons for the navigation. So we have the previous button, and if we select it and go to the settings, you're going to see that it's using form button attribute with the value back. And let me close so you can see this, click so you can see this exactly. So the name is form button and the value is back. Now, if we select the next question button, you can see that it does have the same data attribute, the same attribute, right? But this time the value is next, which tells our script that, hey, this is my button to go to the next step. Now, finally, the main reason why I enabled all of these tabs for you is we have the very last button right here on the very last step, which is our submit. And this is not a normal button. This is basically a form button. So what you would do inside a Webflow, on the very last step, you would do Command E from Eaton, right? And then you would type right here form, and you would select form button, right? So this is the one that you need. Do not add any link block or a simple button. It needs to be a Webflow form submit button, right? And then what you add to this submit button, you add the same attribute form button, but this time the value is submit, which tells the multi-step that this is the submit. So basically, these are the three values that come with the form button. We have form button back, we have form button next, and the very last one, we have form button submit. Now, I'm gonna leave this steps visible to you guys because I want to show exactly how we're playing with the minimum words and how we are setting up the rate on checkboxes. But for this, for the moment, let's just go back to the Notion and see what additional fields we have. So the next one, it's field, and what this custom attribute does is it takes the value of any field, of any input, and it passes this value to a specific span. Now, in the demo you saw, we're basically using this attribute to take the first name of the user and use it throughout the multi-step steps. So let me show you exactly how this works. If I would do reload on this demo, and if I would type right here, let's say Anthony, and then let's just put a random last name like test, hit next. You can see that it says Anthony. So basically it's pulling the value from this first name. And it can also pull any value. So if we go back to the Webflow to show how this is working, you can see that this name right here, it's inside a span. So all we'll have to do is just select a specific word and then click on this brush, which will wrap this specific selection in a span. Now, once you do have this inside a span, you'll just have to select the span. You'll have to go to the settings, and then under the custom attributes, this is where you add the field attribute. So the name, of course, is field, and for the value, you need to have the same value that is the name of the input you want to pass. So in this example, you can see that the value of this Tom span is first name, but from where we're actually pulling this value, well, the value first name, it's actually coming from this field. So if I would select the first name, you can see that the name of this field in the field settings, it's first name. So it's important that it does match. And you can pull any field you want. It can be their first name, it can be their last name, it can be a combination of their first and last name, but of course it can also be something that they would add in different types of fields like text inputs, text areas, or checkboxes. So that is how the field attribute is working. And again, it's just a span with the custom attribute field, and the value needs to be the same value, which is the name of the input from where you want to take the value. So I hope this does make sense. Now let's move forward. We have data parsley error message. and that data parsley min word. So let's talk about this very first one, that data parsley error message. So basically this is just a custom message. So if someone completes a form and you want to display a custom warning or a custom error message, that would be that data attribute that you would use. And if we go back to this demo right here, and if I click next question, you can see that we have some custom messages like please type your name, and the very next one is what's your last name. So if we go back to the Webflow and we select this input right here with the first name, you can see that under the custom attributes, it does have this parsley error message, and the value is just basically any message you want to be displayed. So being said, this parsley error message attribute, you would apply to inputs, right? This can be normal inputs, this can be text areas, as well as radio or checkboxes. Now, the very next attribute is data parsley minimum word. And again, this is optional. If you do decided to enable this minimum word count, then this is the attribute you would use, and the value, it's just the number. So let me show you how this is working inside of Webflow. Now we do have this attribute applied to this text area, and if we're looking, we do have this data parsley minimum word, which is set to 50, which means that this field needs at least 50 words in order for the user to advance to the next step. Now, you can apply this attribute again to any input. You can apply this to normal inputs. You can apply this to email type inputs. You can apply this to text areas. Any inputs that would require the user to write some text inside. Yeah. Let me go back and let's talk finally not just attributes but the styling on overall, so you understand how to change it. And again, this clonable do come with fully personalized style. You have full control. You can come up with your very own style. You can start from scratch, or you can take the existing clonable layout and modify to match your brand. So the very first CSS class I want to talk about, it's called isActive. And this class, Parsley, or our multi-step script, adds to all of the steps that are actually active. Yeah. So if we go back to the Webflow, you do remember that in the beginning of this training, I had to enable steps that are not visible. So what I'm going to do right now is move them back to display none by selecting this form step and then going to the style and clicking on display set to none. Yeah, because this is how we need this to be initially. Why so? Because the very first step that we have right here, this one with Hola Gringo, let's fill in the few details first, do have this additional combo class, which is called isActive. So what Parsley.js will do is it will add this isActive every single time there is an active step, right? And you can see that the difference between a normal form step and a form step with isActive is just the display property. Yeah, with the form step, we set the display to none because we don't want to make it visible. But with the form step, with the isActive, we move it to the display flex because, well, we want to make it visible. And you can use any display property. It can even be display block, right? The reason why I chose display flex is because I want this top part to always be at the top, and I want the form navigation to always be at the bottom. So that's why I've been using justify space between to basically shift elements around. You can use any display property you want, and it will work just the same. So that is for how isActive is working, because some of you might have a question around this. Now, another thing I wanted to point out is I'll have to make all of the steps visible one more time. So I'm going to select form step and move it to display flex. And the reason why I'm moving it back to the display flex is because my isActive is also display flex. And now what I also wanted to show you is this text area. So what this text area is using, it's basically using something that Webflow just launched, and that is custom properties, which allows you to use custom CSS properties that are not available within the style panel by default. And this property is called resize vertical. What this does is it only allows my text area to be resized vertical. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So if I would type right here quickly my name, my last name, cast and hit next. Right. You can see that it allows me to resize vertically, but it does not allow me to resize horizontally. This is really good because you don't want people to accidentally resize to the right, which will add this horizontal scroll at the very bottom. So I hope this does make sense. Now, the very next thing I want to talk about is basically these steps right here. What you're going to notice is the way these dots that indicates the steps work is it's just they're being wrapped in a div block with the display set to grid. It can also be display set to flex, wherever. But basically every single dot do have a simple class called step, which makes them with this nice border and no fill inside. And then we have this is active, which basically makes them black. So again, this is up to you. I just wanted to share this so you know exactly what was my methodology when developing the script, but you can come up with any kind of representation of the steps, right? You can have maybe it's sticky to the left side, and as the user completes, you can have a nice icon, a check icon indicating that that specific step has been completed. So again, it's up to you. So goes for the buttons, since they do rely on custom attributes. You can add these buttons wherever you want. You can add them floating at the very bottom. You can add them floating or sticky at the very left. It's completely up to you. So being said, that was all. Again, if you're gonna have any questions, feel free to leave a comment under this YouTube video, or you can just send us a message at hello@theluminous.com.